Her Twitter handle is Porkchop Express. She has read everything by Dostoevsky, and she didn't want to share her telephone number with me to record this conversation.
I'm just very private with my all my like names and contact information with anything on Twitter because don't take it personally. No, it's never meant personally, but it's just that Twitter is just such a how do you say this? Such a mysterious place where things can explode and go into the direction that you never expect. And
Yeah.
if I don't know someone personally, I'm generally open to meeting people in person, but it has to be someone I know personally that I'm more confident about, sharing information on Twitter.
Yeah, because how do you construct your privacy at the moment? Because you are a face fag.
That's right. That's right.
Uh,
I thought about it. It's like meeting someone in the best analogy that I can give is like meeting someone in a swingers club. If you recognize me from my face while you're on Twitter, then that means we're circulating in the same kind of ideological sphere. And then I'm okay with it. Like I don't mind if you
no,
recognize
but
me,
that's
but
not true.
that's
But that's
never
not.
happened. That's
No,
like
but
never
I
happened,
like the
people.
analogy because I like the idea of meeting, of seeing you all of a sudden in a swingers club. But
But yeah, if you meet someone there, it's like, yeah, you're both in the same place, so who cares? But I
yeah,
don't want to
but
be
but
searchable.
but
I don't want to be searchable. I don't want somebody searching my name and then finding my Twitter. If you
but
find me on my
any
Twitter, that's
dork
fine.
who would never go to a swingers club can just go on Twitter. So it's not an
Yeah,
exclusive
but
club,
they're not.
Twitter.
But they're not gonna. I mean, they're not most likely if they're ideologically not aligned with me. They're probably not gonna recognize me.
Oh, that's how it works.
Right? Like I've never had someone recognize me from my pic, from IRL.
Wow, that's amazing.
I mean, I don't have such a big following, and I don't have such a big presence. So for me, it's not of a concern.
I'm a
Um,
smaller celebrity, even smaller than you are, and I get recognized. I
really,
get recognized in Los Angeles in the airport. I mean, it
that is
happens.
so cool.
It
But
happens.
no, but wait a second. You might be like not so big on Twitter, whatever how you define that, but you have like how do you say that? Like a presence in a certain art
Maybe it's because you
sphere,
see my
and
moving face in the
exact.
films.
Maybe, yeah, exactly,
I mean, it's not that
exactly.
I mean, I get recognized once in a trip of 2 weeks, but it does happen.
No, it never happened to me, and I'm like so not concerned. I just don't want to be searchable. I don't
Yeah,
want somebody like typing in my name or
yeah,
exactly, or somebody like finding out where I work, or and then like divulging this information on Twitter.
yeah.
Yeah, even my name, like my full name, my just my first name, I'm already uncomfortable about it because I had someone I think in the past that got beef with me, and then starting like using my name to just
Oh, that's so
it was
ugly.
just
It's so
yeah, yeah.
stupid. Yeah, and of course, my entire life is tied up with these films, and
Mm-hmm.
also my financial situation is tied up with it. So I cannot really be cancelled in another job that I have next to it.
You
But
do? You have another job?
no, I don't. So
Ah, okay, good,
so
good.
I'm completely tied to it. And you, of course, you have a life next to Twitter.
We have a very normie life. Normie life enjoyer.
Would you share something about that with me in a way that makes you feel safe at the same time? Like
Yeah, sure. Like I generally don't hide like what I who I am, and like on Twitter I just don't divulge any private personal information. But like I mean like identifying things I don't like divulging, but I don't hide
but what kind of
anything
job
about.
do you have? Like, do you have a creative job?
No,
What
not at all, not at all. I've always worked in the banking sector, and it's super boring, my professional life.
you do? You experience it as boring, or are you just saying that to be?
Extremely boring, extremely boring. I experience it like so mind-numbingly boring.
Oh,
It's
poor
just
you. But how do you survive? I mean, you're
I
already doing that
survive
for.
because I like money.
Huh?
Because I like money. I mean, it's well paid, it's stable, it's easy to do. It's
But how do you survive boredom? I mean, for me,
no,
that's one
no,
of.
but I like you leave like for example, like I'll tell you, like you leave the first like 2 years of your life when you're young, and then you just kind of don't question like this lifestyle. You just kind of go along with it. You provide for you have a nice lifestyle. It's comfortable. And at some point, you start like questioning yourself, like these people I'm surrounded with, are they interesting people? Is there something to talk about? What kind of interests do they have? It does get like it gets heavy on you after a while, and that is the reason why I quit when I was around 30 after I had my child. I stopped working after a few years. I decided to take like a short sabbatical, and eventually it ended up in like a 5 year pause,
But now you're
working
back into
pause.
the boring treadmill.
Mm, the job that I have right now is actually very nice. I like it.
Ah,
It's same area, same kind of sector, but at least I like that I have more autonomy, and it's a bit exciting, and there's like a balance between the job and how much time I have, and it's a good balance.
so
I don't
where
mind it.
lies the creativity? Where do you actually have to synthesize, think, be creative within your job? What are the
Mm,
challenges?
there's not much except like communicating with people, which always I think remains a challenge for every like thinking person.
Yeah.
Communicating with people is always a challenge. Every person is different. It's like, how do you approach these people? It's this person. It's never easy. I mean, I'm not autistic, but still, it may not be intellectually challenging, but I think it's challenging on an interpersonal level.
And therefore it's not boring.
It's fine. I mean, that's why I took 5 years. I had enough time to focus on my own like personal development,
Yeah, but you don't
intellectual
understand how
development.
fascinating this is to me because I only do what I want. I suffer for
Exactly.
it. I have my children suffer for it because there's not a lot of money. There's always financial insecurity.
Hmm.
I take all these beatings,
Hmm. Hmm.
but at least I'm only doing what I want. I want to talk to you now, so I come up with an excuse to talk to you
Hmm.
in the form of
No,
this
I
podcast.
really.
So for me, it's really interesting to understand how it is to be a very intelligent Dostoevsky reading person. To
Hmm.
accept this faith of being in a boring job is fascinating to me, and I don't really know what question to ask you about it, but I sort of want to know more about it because it's so
Hmm.
alien to me, so exotic.
Well, first of all, let me say, like, I really respect people who do what they want and dedicate themselves to what they want to do. Niche areas, creative areas, science. They have to make big sacrifices for it because usually these are the people who move the world forward. They move the science forward, they move the culture forward. I have a lot of respect for those people, a lot. Like, because I think myself, I would not be capable of doing that because just value private life and private comfort and stability a lot. And maybe also it has to do like from with your past, how you grew up and what was missing and what you were striving to achieve. And for me personally, growing up, like it was a very unstable emotionally kind of environment. It was extremely unstable. So for me, that was like a goal of my life to just have some stability for myself,
Yeah.
so I'm not using that as an excuse, but maybe that was the driver. I can actually imagine that people who grow up in a very stable environment are more likely to be willing to pursue the personal goals, their ambitions, at the expense of comfort and stability because they already had that basis in their life.
Yeah.
I don't know if you agree or disagree that in any way in any way aligns with your own experience, but I somehow feel like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I suffered from an introverted paranoia narcissistical father who
Hmm.
put a lot of shame on, I think, expression and how you express yourself.
Hmm.
So a way for me always to escape that was to be very extravagant and
Hmm. Hmm.
openly go get into fights with him.
Wow.
It was very unstable, but it it did shape my artistic identity, and I think I'm now no longer murdering my father, but let's say the institutions that I fight with in the films and sort of the energy I derive from that.
Hmm. Hmm.
But it feels way more stable than the smell I get from reading your Afghanistan post, where you compare Afghanistan to your father,
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
tweet you
Hmm.
deleted. If you would
Which
like,
one?
huh?
Sorry, the tweet I deleted. Oh, yeah, sorry,
Maybe you
didn't
didn't
catch
delete
that.
it, but I did this. Sorry, sorry, not sorry, not.
Oh yeah, that tweet. Yeah, I don't know why people are so mad. Like people are so mad at that tweet. I don't understand why. I still don't understand. It's been
But
like
did
5 years.
okay? Let's
It's
read
been
out the
five
tweet. Can we
years.
read out the tweet for the listeners
Yeah,
so they know?
sure, sure.
Sorry, not
And
sorry. Not going to care about Afghanistan because I grew up with an alcoholic,
exactly.
psychologically abusive father in constant state of distress, anxiety, and worry about the future. Hearing the key
Right.
in the door every evening was my own Afghanistan for almost 20 years. That's what you tweeted.
That is like, why are people so mad? Like, what exactly? Give me first give me an impression if you think, do you understand why people are so mad?
I think I do, but I am not mad about it at all. Let's make that
But tell me, why
very
do you think
clear.
people are mad? Tell me, why do you think? Because I'm really genuinely trying to understand.
Because there you are putting an arrow in the categorical imperative of Immanuel Kant. You are comparing your personal sorrow with the categorical suffering of some abstract humanity which, resides in Afghanistan.
Right. Okay.
So your play, it's I have to laugh when I read it, because you're in a playful way addressing this taboo, this big problem of the left, which wants to equate the personal with the universal. So therefore, I think it's a very intelligent and funny tweet. I even don't believe you when you say I don't understand why people get so mad, because I think you're doing this consciously as a conscious joker. So you're playing the humility game when you say I don't understand. Is this true or not?
I genuinely don't understand. I mean, they say that I'm not supposed to. Well, I'm supposed to care about Afghanistan, which I actually do. I actually care a lot about Afghanistan.
So you're also
funny.
lying in order to
So
make
I'm
a point?
lying in the tweet. That is true. But what I don't understand is that even if that was true, what I wrote, why would they be so mad? Because I am allowed to only care about myself. What can I do about Afghanistan? Like, what can I do to change something there? That place has been in a trouble for a really long time. Okay, let's unpack the context here.
Yeah.
The context was the withdrawal from Afghanistan during
Yeah.
the Biden administration, right?
Yeah.
And it was such a terrible thing that was happening there. Absolutely terrible. Like horrendous, right?
Yeah.
Horrendous. So it's not true what I'm saying that I don't care. It was really, really disturbing. If I didn't care, I would not even notice it. I noticed it. It was extremely disturbing. A lot of suffering. Now, what I saw on Twitter was happening on Twitter. People like everybody jumping on this topic and trying to, have something to say, and they have all their opinions. And that was just, to me, so pointless, because you're not going to change anything there. You can't. Even worse, some people were making fun of it. People like Paul Scalas were writing comments like, for us, people living in the comfort in the West, it's all just entertainment. That's what he wrote. And it was actually his tweet that inspired me to say, listen, I just choose not to care about it, which is like not true, actually. But because I have had my own like share of turmoil in life, emotional turmoil, like how much more pain can I participate in willingly to pretend like I care about this or I can change something, It's like I was kind of claiming my space. All of these discussions that were going on, all of these people trying to.
Were you also accusing
virtue
accusing people who have never experienced any trauma in their life of being snowflakes?
Absolutely. I was accusing them of enjoying all this, which Scalas, to give him credit, openly admitted that for him it's just entertainment. He said for a 4HLer, that's what he said. Not for him personally. He said for a 4HLer, it's just entertainment watching stuff like this,
Yeah.
And that kind of triggered me, to be honest, because if you've been like for a lot of pain in your life, you want to distance yourself from more pain. Maybe you can't. Like I said, I pretend that I don't want to care about Afghanistan, but I do.
Yeah.
But I was kind of claiming my space in this whole like blah, 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 and all these people virtue signaling, and all these people like scholars openly saying they don't care. I was just saying, like if you've kind of had a lot of shit in your life, you just might choose not to participate in any of this,
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that a crime? And then of course it got misinterpreted. People got like they're like, it's all about you. Everything is about. First of all, your Twitter is by definition about you, right? I was tweeting to my 1,500 followers at the time, including Scholars himself. So whoever it was, it was this non-blue check, this leftoid Twitter that pulled it out and like disseminated the tweet. People out of my sphere. People in my sphere didn't get mad because they know me.
Yeah.
But the people who don't know me and the people who don't know what kind of person I am, they took it out of context. They placed they projected their own stuff on it. So I can only guess why many people were mad for it for different reasons. But I don't think if you look at the tweet objectively and you know me, I will stand up. I will stand for it.
I
I
mean,
mean,
I
I
see
have
it. I see it more as a little piece of art. So you are a very attractive woman. You're also not problematizing that you're not a super young woman. I don't see sort of like it's a very healthy sort of female identity. I see there very strong. And then all of a sudden you talk about this little girl hearing the key coming into the door. So you use this big Afghanistan and this accusation to people that they are snowflakes. And all of a sudden you project it back to this beautiful literary image of a girl hearing the key go into the door.
yeah, but if you've never lived with a in a stable household where every time your dad comes home there's going to be a fight, how can you relate to any of this? Because you know, if I know that people who have lived that kind of childhood, they know what a key in the door means. It means the parent that is back and there's going to be a fight. Like whatever day you went through, it's over. Like that's going to be the it's going to be pain from now on. And I know that maybe people who haven't lived through that, they cannot relate. I don't know. Some people
Can you
assume that
tell me
he
a little
was
bit
like
more about that pain? Like what would happen?
they'll be fighting with your mom. They'll be screaming. They'll be yelling. There'll be like physical violence. That hurts a child. That's terrible for a child.
Yeah.
And some people projected like he was like but sexually abusing me, even though I have clearly said in the tweet he did not. I said he was emotionally abusive. But people, of course, again project their own things because they cannot read.
So you were living somewhere in Russia.
Not in Russia, in the Russian sphere of influence. Let's put it this way.
And then you became 12, you were very good at school. Like what like
Yeah, I was like capable.
how did you find like how did you find your way out of that? What happened like if you want to talk about it. I'm
No,
curious.
I mean I studied in the Netherlands. So I studied in the Netherlands, and then I'm a capable person, so I always found my way around, and I
So at
eventually
what age did you go to the Netherlands?
19.
Ah.
I studied in Groningen.
Oh.
Yep.
In that left-wing university town.
Was it left wing? It probably is. Everything is left wing, right? What is right wing even?
Well, I
Everything
mean,
is left
Groningen
wing.
has this little peculiar provincial sort of left-wing feeling. It's very
I
it's
feel like the entire Europe is left wing. The entire Western Europe is left wing.
yeah, maybe it is true that because I live in Holland, I can recognize all the different colors of left wingness, and
Oh, okay, okay.
you
There's
know
like
the
layers to it.
yeah yeah
I
yeah.
think like people who are genuinely like are maybe not even suited for left wing, or like it genuinely, authentically would have not been left wing. Are still left wing in the Netherlands,
Oh,
or they think
definitely
they're
no.
left wing. Yeah.
Of course, of course. I mean, yeah, no. I mean,
I don't
there's
know. How do you identify yourself? How do you classify yourself?
it's like a Muslim saying he no longer believes. It's not possible. So I mean, I'm still left wing. It's
You
it's
consider yourself left wing.
I am I am I am fighting every day against the universalists, the demons
Hmm.
that I have been brought up with. But I no longer believe in them. But they're so deep in my system.
Hmm. Hmm.
So when
But
I go
because you
to
have to fight them, so you're fighting
I don't really have
whatever.
to fight them. I'm not in some sort of struggle or beating myself up. But I notice that the patterns, the way I think are very left wing fundamentally. They're very.
Because you are protesting against something, right?
I don't know if it's protesting. It's sort of thinking about stuff from the idea that things should become more equal, more universal, more.
Hmm.
And even though I've abandoned these thoughts theoretically or religiously,
Hmm.
um, when I visited Egypt, I lived in Egypt for 2 years, and I
Hmm.
realized that it really doesn't work like that.
Hmm.
I still notice it's very, very much part of my thinking, and I think the film that I'm now making with Michel Welbeck
Hmm.
has to do with saying goodbye to these old demons, this old father figure, this old 20th century sort of
Exactly.
liberal critiquing atheistic writer in the case of Michel Houellebecq, who is, sort of clinging to this idea of this sort of healthy post-war Europe, complaining about it, but nevertheless, like, living in it, complaining about it. I think I want to undertake with my art and my life and my children a sort of metaphysical quest into a new world.
Hmm.
But honestly, I don't really know what that is, because what is it to be right wing?
I think
uh,
it's changing. That's what I was gonna kind of maybe suggest to you. Like, you say, if I understand correctly, I don't know much more beyond what you told me, but if you felt the need to kind of rebel against your father, it was be a natural, it would be a natural development for you to end up in the left wing kind of ideology and social circle, but it doesn't have to be that your rebellion is itself intrinsically left wing. I think the rebellion right now in society is actually coming from the right wing sphere, because the left wing is dominating everything. Everything is left wing. Our entire European society, our political principles are everything is based on left wing ideology. It has completely. So whatever rebellion is coming in society right now, I feel like it is on the right wing.
I
It's on
definitely
the right.
agree with anything that goes against the sort of monocultural left wing, the cathedral, or whatever you want to call it. Everything that falls outside of it is per definition right wing, so it's more like a negative term in a way.
Like, we've moved from people, like that's a very interesting example that is being brought up often. That people used to be the hippies in the past that would be like anti everything natural, anti vaccine.
Yeah,
And now it is a signifier of being on the right.
yeah, definitely,
So I
definitely.
think there's many more spheres where this is happening.
Yes, I think what I am looking for is the metaphysics of the artist. Um, the foreword of Nietzsche in The Birth of Tragedy. I think what Dostoevsky is doing in his literature. I think that's really what I find
And
truly.
Dostoevsky was also a rebel, you
Yeah,
know.
definitely, definitely. But in the end, consciousness and sort of a conscious, very human orientated perspective of life, and that's also why he can fill these books with. I mean, with his genius, of course, but also because of it's also an ideology. Like he writes all these things in his diary, and
Hmm.
then he needs to put it in his books.
Hmm. Hmm.
Whereas, for example, Curtis Yarvin saw the Welbeck film I'm working on. I wanted his feedback on the film. And then he
Hmm.
took me to a meeting with Peter Thiel in Los Angeles.
Hmm. Hmm.
And Peter Thiel immediately said during that meeting, listen, I'm not interested in this. This is all the funeral rite of modernism. It's this endless liberal bog. I want transhumanism. Therefore, I'm a Christian. I see history as a linear thing. We have to go into the future, not all this whining. And I think sort of Curtis and me were a little bit set back there, saying, "Well, what about humans? What if you lose touch with them? What if you, Peter Thiel, lose touch with the elite and the people who desire art and beautiful things? Isn't that going to be dangerous for you? Isn't there going to be all these things?" And then the conversation retreated a little bit and saying like, listen, I believe in the apocalypse. That's what I
Oh
see
God.
coming. I'm not professing it, but I believe in it. I see the liberal elite crumbling. And besides that, you, Curtis Yarvin, you're trying to make this strategic big win, but I'm in the end only there to make these little technical wins, trying to make a little bit of money here and there. And of course, he was being joking to us because he, I think what he means is, uh, I actually have a vision on the world because I do all these technical wins. That therefore my world model is much more effective than yours, and you're just sort of dwindling around in this subjective, mimetic cesspool of art. You stay
Hmm.
there. Let me do my thing. Art is not really my thing, and I think at least in this left-wing European 20th century world,
Yeah.
people appreciate art.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. But not just in the left wing. I think that the right wing as well, because I think the right wing is like right now trying to cling to the human, to the spiritual, to the soul. And honestly, I personally don't care where the right is, where the art is coming from. I don't care if it's coming from the
No,
left side
but is
or
that
the right
is
side.
do you think that's really true? Do you think that's really coming from the right? Like I am honestly questioning that.
No, no, it's not coming, and not much, for sure. That no, for sure, not coming much. But I personally, I don't care which side it's coming from.
I also
What I appreciate is people trying,
no,
and I know
listen,
that people, yeah,
I wouldn't care as well if it wouldn't
mm-hmm,
matter. But me, as a person who
yeah,
wants to emancipate himself from this European book that you have just been describing, am
mm-hmm,
looking to a world where there's technological advancement, other ideas that challenge my ideas. For example, someone like Peter Thiel telling me that what I'm doing is irrelevant is meaningful to me. Because if I want to, in my art, portray somebody like Peter Thiel,
yeah.
because I have the ambition to be a Dostoevsky with my films.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, I need to include people like Peter Thiel or in my films. I can not only portray the liberal dying elite in Europe because that would make my vision very limited.
But it's fine to include him, but it's one thing to include him, and it's another thing to actually care what he thinks.
That's
Because who
very
is
true.
Peter Thiel? Peter Thiel is a businessman. End of story, period. Do you think many normies, I'm sorry to use this term, but just to simplify the discussion, do you think they know who Peter Thiel is? People who are not on X don't even know who he is. Like, yeah, he's a businessman. There's like tons of them in California. There are people making money doing drugs. They're like they're living in their own little world. They're disconnected from reality. What they live in, what they think with transhumanism is that that's what they think is there. It's real. They think it applies to the entire world. They're totally disconnected. Just like people in X are entirely disconnected from reality, but at least we can kind of accept, like, look, we are in X, we're kind of like in our own bubble, but there's also the normie world out there. Some like me even go into it and interact with it and know what's going on. People like Teal have no idea. They genuinely have no idea. So
Okay.
he's coming and talking to you about like transhumanism, whatever that means. I don't even know, but he thinks that's universally applicable, whatever. It's just him living in his own little world. And for you as an artist, I think it's imperative to portray and include people like him. But it doesn't mean these people in 100 years are going to be remembered or they're going to matter. I mean, Dostoevsky didn't write for the elites of his time. He wrote for normal people. He wrote for regular people. He wrote for money. So he just happened to be a good writer that could relate to the human condition. That's what matters. Can Peter Thiel relate to the human condition? No. It is a very unique specimen of a human in a unique kind of setting in world history, and living in their Californian bubble, technological, financial, everything. They are entirely disconnected from reality, if you ask me. I might be wrong, but that's my impression. And I think maybe you're letting yourself, like, I know I might be wrong, maybe you're letting yourself get too much dragged into this, like,
There's
you know?
definitely something there also with the father figure and all these things and the sort of perversity. That's definitely true. But I would like to say the following. If you want to study something, if I want
Mhm,
to study you, I have to feel attracted to you. I have to feel
mhm.
at one point attracted to your healthy, I identify it as female, rejection of like who is Steele? I don't care. Like let's talk about normal people. Nobody's going to remember him in 100 years.
No, I'm
I
not saying they might, because he is actually very influential. I'm not like diminishing his influence.
no no no.
He's very influential, but
Okay, no, but back to my point. So in order to portray, let's say I'm making an artwork of you, I have to fall in love with you a little bit and sort of like imagine myself rejecting this Peter Thiel in this sort of a little bit moral, like who is he? Don't get dragged with him. Dostoevsky made art about moral people. He was not, like he was not directing himself at the elite. But at the same time, I have to form a critical discourse around you rejecting that categorically. and I sort of have to start making a map of you in order to make you into a figure I can portray. And if my art includes also rulers like Peter Thiel or powerful people, I have to
Mm-hmm.
make that map, and therefore I have to fall in love with him a little bit.
Mm-hmm. But is
Um,
falling in love the same as just being genuinely curious? I mean,
for
you can stay genuinely curious and dedicated to learning about a person without. Um,
for me, these things are really like the erotic is really tied to
mm,
how I film something, how I.
Because there is something deeply unconditional about the concept of love by itself is unconditional, right? That's what the definition of love is. It's unconditional. You love the person not because of something. You love them in spite of something, in spite of all their weaknesses, in spite of all their nasty sides. Because if you say, I love you because of this, this, and this, you're just being pragmatic. You're just being calculating. So love, by definition, requires a certain type of unconditionality.
Well, I think the capability to love is unconditional in humans. It's a fundamental human thing to do, but in practice, you know, love comes with attached to these sort of artifacts of reasons,
Mm-mm.
and you know that would be my opinion of love. I mean, I truly deeply love Kate, the mother of my children,
Mm-hmm.
and who I make these films with. But the spark came from me being able to feel, I could maybe use her to improve myself or something like that.
Well, of course, there is something we're attracted to. And for sure, there are things why we are with someone. There are positive things. But what this differentiates love from being calculating is that um, there are sometimes in love and being with another person, things that are very difficult to deal with,
Yeah,
extremely difficult and painful. Maybe it be things that hurt you, things that can be damaging to you long term, and yet you choose to stay with that person.
yeah.
That's that unconditional aspect of love, where if I am if I were to pick a guy who fits me because he's smart, rich, beautiful, handsome, I would probably walk away if as soon as this person started making my life
Well,
difficult,
it's
because then it
I'm definitely not talking about marriage or until
no, but
death do
just
us
a
apart.
relationship, just like
I'm
any
talking about the sort
relationship.
of erotic relationship that you as an artist have to your subject matter. But I also have this tendency to believe in unconditional love. I think I'm unconditional with Kate. I think I think I believe that's the case. Kate says, "Well, we'll see in 10 years. You know, when I'm old and no longer attractive and all these things. Let's see how you hold up."
Mhm.
But it's definitely something I'm convinced.
Yeah, so you see, there's this unconditionality, and with you, if you say with your artist, with your subject, I think at the end of the day, you're still being very kind of calculating and conditional.
Yeah.
So it's not. I don't know if it's entirely true that what I don't know. Maybe I'm misinterpreting that you truly love them, or you have to love them in a way to.
Well, it's also a way of forcing yourself into an aesthetical position. Force
Mhm.
yourself into a position of not judging, not rejecting ideas, intersubjectivity, standing in someone else's shoes. I think that's what love is. Truly trying to understand somebody else without judgment. So it's an artistic tool
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
otherwise
Mhm. Mhm.
I would become moralistic. I would,
Mhm.
my art would not.
No, I understand what you mean. Yeah, yeah.
And I like that aesthetical position. I like being there. It sort of liberates me from everything that's
But can
petty
you?
about me.
Okay. Hmm. But can you stay critical at the same time? Can you then talk to someone like Peter Thiel and then see through his bullshit?
Um, in a way, I'm not a journalist, so I'm not so much concerned with having to see through the bullshit. There's definitely an element in art where you can become how do you say a roestaat? Sort of like you get high on the bullshit and you fall
Mm-hmm.
in love with it and you let yourself go with it and you see in what kind of trouble it gets you, and then
Mm-hmm.
maybe after this adventure and you're dropped down from your Icarus flight, then the realization comes and the capability to actually shape an artwork from that in hindsight. So my films
Mm-hmm.
often are definitely the product of me being a fool, me being an idiot, me falling in love with Porkchop Express or Peter Thiel or Curtis Yarvin or Michel Welbeck or any person that is is a figure in my films.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
pretty cool and very uh, worthy of admiration, I think.
why?
Why? Because it's brave. Because that puts you in a vulnerable position, and you're honest about it too. Some
That
people would be like, some people maybe go through this process and they're unwilling to admit it to themselves.
yeah.
Because admitting that to yourself is putting yourself in a vulnerable position. But putting yourself in a vulnerable position, admitting that you are, it requires a lot of strength. It's actually the opposite. So people who always pretend like they're so strong and powerful and independent, they're not. And people who admit, look, like I'm almost like a fool because I kind of fell in love artistically with Peter Thiel. That requires a lot of strength because you are admitting there you're putting yourself in a vulnerable position. And that requires strength. And a lot of people don't have that strength and they cover it with pretending to be uh, emotionally distanced or totally objective or independent, intellectual. Yeah, you know,
But
that's how I
now,
see that.
during this conversation, I want to fall in love with you. I want to hear more about you. You, I mean, but
But I'm not an
maybe I
interesting,
do.
but I'm not particularly like an interesting person.
Yeah, you always say that, and you do that also in the Tony podcast, and it's sort of this. But I see that as posturing, to be honest. Like it's, I mean, it's very deep
But what
posturing.
have I done? Look at me. I'm producing nothing. I cannot even produce one article. People always come to me and say, "Hey, why don't you write this? Why don't you write a book?" Why, I cannot even write like a grifting article, Substack. I
Well,
cannot even produce
okay,
that.
maybe you're completely right. Maybe I'm projecting on you the fact that I cannot imagine myself to be someone who doesn't think of himself as a genius, because
Hmm.
I'm a nutcase. So I cannot even fathom you honestly saying these things. I
But
must think you. I must
the
think
way
you're
I
lying.
see,
Yeah.
hmm
No, go on.
the way I see myself is that I can think and I can react in maybe in a constructive way to what happens around me and with people I know. But I just cannot be bothered to, if I have a thought, I put it into a tweet. I cannot be bothered to sit there and try to expend it unnecessarily into thousands of words so that I can make like a few €100 with an article.
But why
I
would that
just
have to be
cannot
the
be
form?
bothered.
Because you want to make money, or because you
No,
think that
because
long form is more important than short form, or like
no, for
what?
me, short form is more important, period. I have a thought. If it's a good thought, I can put it into a tweet. If I have to sit there and put it into an article, then it's only because I need to make money with it. That's how I see it.
Yeah. So it's not an
That's
issue,
why I
right?
cannot produce anything. That's why I cannot produce anything. And
Yeah,
because
but
I'm not
now you're
producing
discriminating,
anything,
but you're producing these tweets, right? So
yeah, but nobody cares. Apparently, not enough people care and don't see them as valuable either. So there's that as well. So
well,
it's like,
maybe if you let me do my work and sort of like interview you about your life, I will make
oh
you
no, I
into
would
a.
love to share. Like, for example, what I think is valuable, what I can contribute is like I've just finished reading, took me 5 years, all of Dostoevsky. I would love
Yeah.
to talk about it.
So
I
what do
would
you
love
think?
to.
What would be the question, the best question? Because honestly, I thought the Tony podcast was a bit superficial.
You did?
Yeah, I mean he
I
makes
thought he
every.
was well prepared. I thought he there the
He
question. He
is,
was
but it's a
well
bit
prepared.
it's a bit utilitarian. So like, is there any goodness in Dostoevsky? Is it all too pessimistic? It's this sort of like very Anglo-Saxic boilerplate. You know, like is it positive or negative? You know, like these. But what is actually like? I think that's absolutely not what Dostoevsky is about. I think, to me, the last scenes in Crime and Punishment are more of a weakness to the book than a strength. This sort of sentimental end scene where he sort of like finds, like
Love,
solace.
true
Yeah.
love.
It's the weakest part of the novel, and it's always the argument that people use to say, well, you see, actually, Dostoevsky has a positive side because this book's. The end of this book is about redemption. So what if it's about the redemption? I'm considered
But
with
it's not
truth
a
and
very
beauty.
realistic. First of all, it's not a very realistic redemption.
No, it's absolutely fake. It's
This day.
sentimental.
But it's also, but
And I like it because it's fake, because it's great art, So, you know,
Dostoevsky definitely has his main value to culture, to spiritualities, that he indeed try to convey this idea that humans are capable of redemption. But how he does it is a bit like infantile in a way.
yeah.
You
But
kind of have to see through that.
so what does redemption even mean? Do you know what it means?
It means that humans have good ability to be good in them.
So what?
Yeah, but so what? I mean, it just kind of gives you hope a
For
little bit
what?
for yourself,
But it's a
Like you
given.
get
I mean, the moment you are born, you see that people are capable of good and evil.
exactly, and but they need to be reminded about that, I suppose.
Well, I
I think
don't.
his no, I
I
think
don't need
his
to be. I
message.
like. I'm when I
I
when I.
actually think that's more interesting in his message, that actually we need to be reminded that people are capable of bad more maybe than of, and then we need to be reminded about that. Like if you give them too much free reign, they will show their worst sides. Like that some I saw today a tweet. Nietzsche said like all our society is like worshiping the criminals and we're treating them too kindly. It's like Dostoevsky said the same. So he said that before Nietzsche.
Yeah.
Nobody's bringing that up.
Yeah.
So
So when somebody says the Holocaust is so evil there cannot be poetry after the Holocaust, I think bullshit. I'm not the kind of person that.
Dostoevsky is not. Yeah,
So,
Dostoevsky predicted the Holocaust.
yeah. So, but just to finish my thought.
Sorry.
So
Yeah.
no, don't worry. So I'm one of these persons that doesn't have to be reminded that there's good in the people when he sees a lot of bad. For me, it's it's self evident. When I read Crime and Punishment, I see a young man, an adolescent man, struggling with being a big ego and an adolescent, and the sentimentality that makes him decide to kill an old woman with an axe is the same small-minded in a way sentimentality by which he finds redemption at the end. It's a portrait of this character, and by doing so, Dostoevsky as a writer elevates himself away from that person that of course is part of him as well. So in a way this book is also therapeutic to him. Like
Absolutely.
he says goodbye to the Raskolnikov in him who finds cheesy redemption in a Sonia. That's how I see it.
And that is true because he himself, right? He was part of this progressive um, anti-tyrist movement, progressive everything, rebellious movement.
Yeah.
So he himself probably had those ideas and thoughts, right?
Yeah.
So he himself kind of like writes an exonerating novel about how young people who think they can decide right or wrong by themselves, departing from common morality, how they are first of all wrong by doing this, and second, but they're still good people, they can find love. It's pretty straightforward. Actually, I believe that I find the first part more convincing and more of a warning than the second part.
Crime and Punishment.
Yeah, I mean, in general, like Dostoevsky saying, yes, his main contribution is people, he loved people in spite of everything,
Yeah.
because you can see how much he loved people when you read his memoirs from prison.
Yeah.
So I think that's the most kind of like nice, warm, good, positive thing about him. But I think the more valuable thing about him to society, to humanity, to culture, is that he is reminding us that people can be very shitty if you just give them the circumstances to be shitty. And it's your responsibility to kind of keep society in check so that people don't go wild like that guy with an axe, decide what's right and wrong by themselves. That was his warning, the main warning, the main valuable thing that I draw from his work.
Yeah.
For sure, for sure. He was trying the entire time, he was trying to warn, like, you have all these positive intentions with socialism and progressivism, but what you're going to achieve is that people are just going to go wild and nuts. Like, they are just going to subvert society completely. There's going to be complete spiritual and moral decay. He tried to warn against that.
Yeah, maybe I'm truly a superficial, atheist, atomized, left-wing person who is happy with his life and doesn't see a larger overarching structure. and I'm not saying this in jest or to. I mean, I'm trying to be honest about myself. But what I see in the book is that I truly don't care about him killing the old woman. It's fine to me as long as he doesn't get caught. Fuck this old bitch. Then he gets into a psychosis because he cannot handle it. He is weak.
Right.
And then Porphyry drags it out of him because Porphyry is the true, like fun character of the show who sort of like looks at it from far above. Because he's playing this game and he's not even cynical. Like I think Porphyry loves Raskolnikov for being this silly adolescent boy who gets into a psychosis because he puts so much moral weight onto his own shoulders, which is hubris, in my opinion. To me, the book is about hubris. The act of killing the woman is hubris. The act of saying you did it to an inspector is hubris, and then feeling sentimental about being imprisoned and Sonia is also hubris.
Yeah, it's like majority of people would go to kill on someone like that and never actually experience any kind of moral. How do I say that? They would not be in a position to betray themselves like that, or just go just basically cruise for it. Probably
go with it,
problems. And like this guy was actually a good person because he was so ambiguous about it. He basically pretty much like exposed himself. He confessed, pretty much. He wanted to confess the entire time.
He's a clown. Raskolnikov is a clown.
Yeah, he was completely. He didn't have his shit together. I think like the truly bad people would have totally cruised through it and would have never exposed themselves.
Well, I mean, I think there's a difference between killing an old woman with an axe and being a bad person. I think being a bad person is coming up with a plan to kill all the Jews in Germany. You know what I mean? Like, that's evil. I think just killing one old woman with an axe because you're a little bit confused and adolescent doesn't make you a bad person. Yes.
Okay, well, that's an interesting opinion, but okay.
No, but honestly, do you really think Raskolnikov is bad for killing an old, like fart?
With an axe, yes. It was completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
It was no, but for him it was a political statement too, right? So there is that aspect to it. He thinks he can do that because he perceives her from his political position as someone who's who's an usurper and who is
but maybe he doesn't know himself. Maybe the real reason was that his grandma tortured him when he was a child, and this is completely outside of the scope of the book. I mean, this also suggests that he knows himself and that Dostoevsky knows the characters in his books completely.
Well, I think assuming that he was projecting, I think there's definitely a large political subcontext to it because that was the entire moral debate at the time. Do we have those laws as given to us in the Bible?
So exactly. So Dostoevsky himself is also a product of the fashion of his times.
And he's projecting those debates. Like he said, okay, there is the law that says do not kill, period. But this guy, the progressives and the leftists, and they said, well, we can kind of decide ourselves what is right and what is wrong. And if she's a worthless old woman who's just making money off the pain of the back of people,
but don't you think
she doesn't deserve to leave? I decide that.
But don't you think
that is the debate?
I understand, but don't you think the boilerplate rejection of the sin of killing, like this, killing is a sin as a boilerplate morality, is for Dostoevsky a rejection of what he hates so much about what progressivism will bring. But this doesn't mean that his Christianity is true.
What do you mean his Christianity is not true?
Well, I think his Christianity or his Alyosha figure, his Grand Inquisitor, his redemption at the end of Crime and Punishment, is in a way a not very adequate reaction, but a reaction nevertheless, to his vision that the death of God will not bring a lot of good stuff to the world. Whereas I think Nietzsche is capable of formulating the humble beginnings, in my opinion, of a metaphysics that could come after the death of God.
Okay.
That's how I see it. So I think Dostoevsky is a visionary, but he's also an artist. So he imagines himself to be a Christian. He imagines himself to that being the response to this nihilism of the left.
Well,
But
that's it's a valid opinion. We will never know for sure.
no, we will
We
never
can
know for
kind of
sure for Dostoevsky.
infer. Yeah, we can try to infer from his background, right? So his background is like his upbringing was traditional religious. So just like that's what all this religious upbringing. It's like
Yeah,
instilled into you since you're a baby and you grow with Bible, and he did have good memories about that.
I have to
Okay.
pee so bad. I
Okay.
drank all this.
Okay. Do you want to take a break?
I am back.
Yay! And you didn't wash your hands.
No, I did not. Oh, I love that. Yeah, no, I didn't.
It's a funny joke. But so if I might continue my thought.
To hear more, go past the paywall.